Hello and welcome to In the Light, Growing Your Soul with me, Anna Isabel. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and I am also a psychological astrologer. And I'm delighted today to welcome Jules Standish. Hello, Jules.
Hi, Anna, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. And I can see that you are wearing some very pretty colors on your top. More than
Yes,
one.
I've got my lovely orangey red and my green to bring the balance, the red and green together. I do like to put it, lots of people say red and green shouldn't be put together, but I love the combination. I think it's the great balance of stimulating, energizing red with the harmony and balance and calming of green. So I love to put the combination together.
It's a very natural combination. And I think I should explain why it is that I am talking about something so seemingly frivolous as color with my guest right to begin with. And the reason is because Jules has written a brilliant book called A Colorful Dose of Optimism. And so it's all about color. And I think color is an extremely healing property that we have available to us. And so here we are, ready to discuss it.
Yeah, it's color has, been an amazing part of my life for, for forever, but actually learning about how to use color consciously. I've been working as a color consultant for about 18 years now, and I now teach color. I have been teaching it for about 7 or 8. And I love writing about color so that people worldwide can get a bit more information about how we can bring color into our everyday lives. I think so much of what we see and what we wear and what we surround ourselves in our home, we do very subconsciously. But color is a very important part of our world, and it can really help us to take control of things in our lives to help boost our mood, to make us feel more confident and happier. And I think after going through the pandemic, I know that certainly myself and a lot of people felt very out of control. And so I wrote A Colourful Dose of Optimism during the pandemic because I really thought, well, I was being asked by the media so much to write about how we could boost our moods in the home and how we could keep ourselves calm in an anxious time, and how we could actually lift our spirits. And it became such a big deal. I thought, I've got to write about this, put it into a book, because actually it is something that we can control, even if it's in a really, really small way. When we look in the mirror and we see a color that really lifts our energy, makes our skin look great, gives us the confidence, makes us smile. Smiling releases happy hormones. So even in that little way, or by putting some yellow flowers in a room that's dark to bring some light in, something we should be conscious of now going into the darker months, certainly in the Western world, how we can just do small things that when we see them or wear them really do help us to feel more in control of our own emotions. So that's really why I wrote the book.
Tell us what color actually is.
Color is light. Light is color. So when we see wavelengths of light, our eyes use about 80% of that for eyesight, but about sort of 15 to 20% is actually absorbed into the cones at the back of the eyes and into the brain, and in particularly the hypothalamus gland, which is the gland of heat and temperature, and the pituitary gland. And lots of experiments have been done of people wearing red, putting people into pink rooms, how all these colors actually can affect our temperature. So red being at the hottest end of the wavelength spectrum, red and orange, can really release adrenaline in our body, so can raise the temperature. And when we're in a red room, how warm we can feel. If it's that warm red, the room feels smaller and cozier. But if we're in it for any length of time, it can actually make us feel quite anxious, and maybe for some people slightly aggressive. So color needs to be used very mindfully. And I think when you look at the hotter end of the spectrum, the reds and the oranges, they're wonderful for stimulating. So you would choose to wear them if you needed that real boost of energy, that tonic. Red is all about passion and drive and enthusiasm. So a great color to wear if you're feeling really tired and you want that boost. Orange is a combination. So where red is primary, orange is a combination of joyful, pure sunlight yellow and that energy and passion of, so it's the combination of the two. So orange is incredibly adventurous and daring and sociable and happy and optimistic. Yellow, of course, to me is always joyful and pure sunshine. It is the color that particularly women have an issue with wearing the most, where most women love, always, most of them love to wear black. Yellow is the one color that over and over again people will say, I really struggle with yellow, which I find really interesting, because yellow is very much the color of the solar plexus. So it's that self-love center for us. Yellow is also the sunshine, which we all need so badly. And yet it's interesting that we find it a problem to wear it sometimes. For the warmer skin tones with the yellow base, the springs and the autumns, yellow is a natural harmonizer. And for the cooler skin tones, there are cooler, clearer yellows. So there is a yellow for everybody. Yellow is very stimulating. So when we think about wearing yellow, I know if I wear yellow during the day, I will probably need to take it off and put some blue on in the evening, because yellow is mentally very stimulating. So again, it's a great color to have in a study if you want to get those mental creative juices going, and also in a children's playroom. Wonderful color to have, but never sleep in too much yellow, because it's very mentally stimulating. So if you want yellow in your bedroom, use accents or go very soft and combine with other more calming colors, like the greens and the blues. So when we come round the wavelengths of light, because red, when we go back to red, that's the wavelength that hits us the hardest, you know, it's the longest. So what happens when we see a red traffic light is we know instantly we have to stop. Yeah, red is danger, it's got all those properties. And as we move around the wavelengths, as we come to the shorter wavelengths, they get more restful. And when we come to green, one of the reasons being in nature is so good for us is because green is very restful on our eyes. So again, you know, when we were all closed up, the one thing we were encouraged to do was get outside and be in greenery, because it really is very balancing and harmonizing green. It's also very refreshing. It's the color of renewal, starting new projects. You know, in spring, we see all those green shoots, and it gives us hope that actually life is beginning again and we can recreate that. So green is that wavelength that's very restful. And as we go into the blues, blue, like the sky, like the sea, we are surrounded on this planet by blue. And even when we're having a grey, rainy day, we know and we trust that the blue skies will return. And blue is the color of the throat chakra, so it's communication, and it's also about trust, reliability, diplomacy. And it is voted time and time again the world's most favorite color. Maybe it's because we are so surrounded by it, we feel comforted by it. And there are so many different shades of blue, from, you know, the very palest, lovely cornflowers to the turquoises, through to navy. So lots of different color choices to wear. And then when we come around to purple, purple is very much that color we associate with royalty and being very regal and luxurious. And we think of, you know, Cadbury's chocolate in that purple wrapper. It's a treat, it's a luxury. And so purple has that, the symbolism very much of being a color of luxury. And I think that purple is also a wonderful color. It's a very inspirational color. It's very creative. And it's very much that color of mediation. So I always talk to people about wearing purple at Christmas time. If you've got lots of different family members coming, purple is a lovely color to wear or to put on your table whenever you're having a lovely event with people, because you put that with gold and it just suddenly looks incredibly glamorous. So purple again is a very spiritual color, because it's obviously the crown chakra, and a color to meditate in. And it's a combination of blue and red, so it's not a primary. So really it's depending on the mix as to how calming it is, but generally is a wavelength of light. Violet is a short wavelength, so it's restful on the eyes. And pink, of course, is not on the rainbow or the spectrum. It is actually a part of the red colouring that we associate with. It's a much softer version of red, because you put white with it and it becomes comforting, nurturing, loving pink, and you put a bit more blue with it and it becomes very cool and fuchsia and a bit more fun-loving and out there. So every colour, to me, very much has a place. And of course, you can combine the colours to bring all those different properties together, which is why colour is so exciting and incredibly individual. So how you use color is really up to you to tell your own story through your personality and the house that you live in.
It's a very personal thing, but it's a bit like music and sound. It does affect us. With sound and with music, we're, I suspect, a bit more conscious of the effect that it has on us. But color certainly does have an effect, because we're very aware of colors that we love, and we're very aware of colors that make us kind of recoil a bit. I once had this amazing yellow winter coat, and I bought it because it was yellow and because it was winter, and I was tired of walking around in a sea of black with everyone with black coats around me on gray days.
Yeah.
And I just
good for you
it. And yes,
I bet you got a lot of smiles. People radiate. You were radiating that beam of light.
Do you know, I've never had more compliments than wearing that coat.
It's interesting because we have such an impact on other people. So, you know, that's why it's so important to think about, you know, every day mindfully thinking about, right, what am I doing today? Who am I seeing? What color would really give me the impact that I need to help me emotionally? And also, if I'm going to a job interview, or I'm going on a date, or I'm going to meet parents, what is it that I am reflecting onto other people about me in that particular moment? So, and it's interesting what you say about favorites. You know, color is very emotive. And I think, first of all, I need to say that actually, you know, we have to be incredibly aware of colors in culture. You know, what, you know, is seen as a prosperous, happy color, you know, for us in the West. I mean, people get married in white because it's seen as innocence and purity, but over in the East, it's the opposite. So one has to look at how we're brought up culturally, and each different country will have a different flag, different political parties that we're all very influenced by as we grow up. So culturally, those colors will have a symbolism, but also we can have favorites. And I think as we develop into adults, we often have experiences where we're very happy, or maybe not, we're actually very sad. But those moments, they go into our subconscious, and those colors, you know, you might go on holiday and sleep in a lovely, you know, calming blue room, and remember that holiday as a very happy time in your life, and then be wanting to paint, you know, or decorate your own bedroom as a grown-up in that shade of blue, because you associate that happy time with that color. And so I think we associate color emotionally, and also our colors change as we go through different things in our lives. You know, certainly if we're going through periods of trauma, our colors, we suddenly need different vibrations. And it's where black comes in a lot, where people go through things and they feel they need to hide emotionally. They don't want people to see what they're feeling. They don't want people to intrude on them. And I always think it's very necessary for whatever healing process we are going through, that we use those colors for that, or those moments in time. And then the other side of what makes us look in the mirror and go, wow, that color I love, and oh, that color's awful, is because of our genetics and our underlying skin tone. And so if you've got the right color on that harmonizes and brings out the best of your complexion and makes it even and healthy, and your eyes sparkle and you look, you know, really well, and your hair all comes into it, that is a color that probably is part of your palette that really, really suits you and matches your undertone. If you're wearing a color that is out of your season, the chances are it's going to really grate with your energy, and it's also going to make you look tireder, older. It's going to possibly make you look quite unhealthy, because it might make your skin look blotchy or washed out. You know, there's an awful lot of different ways we can look at color, and that's why I write my books, because it's so multifaceted. You know, there's so many angles to the genetics of it, our personalities, our culture, our emotions, and our daily needs, and the impact that we have on others. You know, it's so important to really think about color in a new way, I think, and how you can bring it into your life.
It's interesting because I've never been pulled to an item of clothing based on how that color will look on me. I either like it or I don't. It's never something that I've considered, is how it's going to make me look, except for gray. There's something about gray that And yet I like some grays, but I find it difficult to be inspired to put it on. And black is not far behind there, but it's because I like rich colors, I think.
Yeah, I think it was also interesting, you know, I've written a bit about grey in the book, but, you know, when we were in COVID, there was a lot of grey comfort dressing going on, because people couldn't be bothered, and it was kind of like, oh God, I'm just going to watch telly again, and I'll just get into my grey trackies or my grey whatever. And the thing about grey is a combination of black and white. So if you think about the lack of light, unless it's got other undertones to it, and obviously if it's got reds or yellows or pinks or blues in the mix, then it's going to change it. But, you know, coming out of that grey zone, even if you are sitting at home watching the telly, you know, it's to think about that absence of light, and to think about how a colour can really have an impact, even if you are just doing nothing, and feeling that sense of mood boosting, and how putting that colour on can raise your energy and make you feel. Obviously, if you're having a day where you're getting, I don't know, grey's a good colour to mix as a neutral, and I do talk about grey a lot when it's workwear and how you can combine it with colours. You know, grey has a great place in a wardrobe, so I'm not saying don't ever wear grey, but it's that kind of that all grey scene that a lot of us went into. Grey is an amazing neutral, and particularly for the cooler skin tones where there is a black and white combination, it is a very effective colour to be able to wear, particularly to work, if you can put it with another colour, because we can't all go to work in bright, strong, rich colours. You know, depending on our profession, there is a code for certainly a lot of people. So I think if you can use the neutrals wisely with a colour that you really love, then you can wear a neutral, you know, grey jacket, black, navy, whatever it is, and then you can wear one of your colours up against your face, or you can wear them as darker trousers. And then, so there's an awful lot of ways you can combine. And I think neutrals are a very good starting point when you're building a wardrobe. Once you've got those right, and it's, to me, you know, if you spend a bit more money on your neutrals that fit you really well and that are in your right colour zone, they will be there forever. You know, the neutral coats, the neutral jackets. I mean, I love a bright coat, but, you know, for work, a lot of people can't do that. And some people don't like it either. They want to wear a coloured scarf. So getting those neutrals there, they will probably always be there. And then the colours that you love, you know, you find your own shades within your palette, and some are fashionable, some aren't, and then you can add them in. But yeah, it's an important way to build a wardrobe, I think. But I really hear what you're saying about grey and black, but there are certain seasons that really, really suit them, and it is a mainstay of their wardrobes.
Indeed, and that's obvious. You just need to look around. And
Yeah.
can see that.
The thing is they also don't belong to a lot of people's wardrobes, and that's where, you know, I wrote How Not to Wear Black, my first book, all about that, because really, you know, there's an awful lot of people that do not suit wearing black up against their faces. And but I would never ever, you know, colour is a therapy, and if someone loves it, my job is to say, okay, black, it's not in your seasonal palette, it's not part of your personality makeup, but you love it, then I'm just going to show you how to wear it well. So there are lots of ways to do it, wearing it away from the face, so you have your own skin tone reflecting up, making sure your makeup, if you wear makeup, is always in the right colour place. Jewelry is really important. Is it gold? Is it silver? What stones should you be wearing? Scarves. I mean, scarves are magic. You know, they change instantly. Any outfit really, whether you want to do the silk scarf or the big scarf, you know, they put that colour up against your skin if you love to wear black. So there's lots of ways of doing it. So the How Not to Wear Black really was, if it's not part of your palette, let's find a way, if you want to continue wearing it, let's do it well, and don't age your face, and don't show all the signs of, you know, tiredness that black can do if it doesn't belong to you.
Well, it's all very well to talk about scarves, but what about men?
Men wear scarves. Men wear scarves too, particularly in winter. I think the thing for men is very much about getting the jacket right, the suit colour right, particularly for work. I find now that in the corporate world, things have really changed. The tie is not such a big deal. You know, go back 10 years and everyone had to wear a tie. Certainly in the corporate world, there are ties for meetings, but then they go in a drawer. So ties, you know, are a great way for a guy to express their personality, and for women who want to wear ties too. But, you know, if you've got a dark suit, kind of part of a uniform, and then the tie's got lots of colors in it, that is a way of expressing personality. So if you haven't got that, then you need to make sure that the shirt is either of a cool or a warm. What colors? I mean, sales of pink shirts for guys has risen exponentially over the last 10 years. And I love that, because, you know, pink should be for everybody. There should be, well, there are no boundaries for pink anymore. You know, we've always kind of been brought up to believe that, you know, pink is for girls, blue is for boys. Absolutely not. And it was Pantone a few years ago that actually had their, you know, they are the Colour Institute in America that basically provide us with all fashion and interiors for the year ahead. They have colours of the year, colour generally of the year. And this year, particular year, they had pink and blue alongside each other. And, you know, at that point, it was basically telling the world that actually there are no boundaries. There are no gender boundaries. There are no age boundaries. Pink and blue can be worn by anybody. And I think the sales of pink shirts really speaks volumes about that. And also, of course, you know, for guys in their leisure wear, they can be much more expressive of their shirts and the colours that they're wearing. And it's not just all about wearing a black suit. You know, there are so many different shades of blues and greys and some browns in certain professions as well. There's an awful lot of choice these days, I think. Men's fashion, men's grooming, you know, it's a massive growth area. And I think it's fantastic, because colour should be about expressing who you are. And so I love the fact that it's all really, you know, there's so much available now.
Do we all see colour the same way?
No, because we have men and women, apparently, and I'm not a scientist, but I have done some research into this, and we do tend to have, men and women do tend to see things slightly differently from the different amount of cones that we have in our eyes. I think also what's very interesting is, I remember going on Radio 4 to talk about this with a wonderful professor who studies colour from a scientific point of view. And he was asked all these questions. And when I was asked, you know, when I work with men and women and work with colour, women tend to see things in many more shades, I would say. But I think that's probably due to the fact that we've been so much more open to fashion. So, for instance, we might see a shade of orange as peach or apricot or tangerine, or, you know, we might have all these words for it, whereas a guy might just say, well, that's orange. And that's just because I think we are generally brought up with all, you know, reading the magazines, talking to each other, going into the shops, we shop and we look at, you know, what colours are called. And now, you know, so many of our fashion items, because colours become such a big thing, have names that belong to each different, you know, you will get the tangerine scene and you will get, you know, the rose garden of your dress. So I think that's just a really interesting question, that we have been more exposed to the shades of colours, that we might have a more floral vocabulary than certainly the guys do. And there is a woman I read about recently in Australia, and I can't remember the name of it because my brain doesn't work, but she sees everything in Technicolor. I mean, literally everything that she sees visually is just like mind-blowing with the amount of colours that she sees. And there's something to do, she's called something very special, and I can't think of the name of it, but she is quite unique, and she has this vision. When you go into the animal kingdom, of course, there are many different types of vision that our animals have. Dogs see colours differently to butterflies, so the animal kingdom is specifically amazing, but that doesn't surprise me. But their visual ability and their spectrum of colours is often very different.
It is very different. Dogs, particularly, and I know you've got two and I've got one, see blue and they see yellow, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
as far
that's right. Yeah.
So I'm always buying him blue or yellow toys or feeders so that he can enjoy some color in his life.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I was just coming back to the question of whether we see color differently, and you were talking about the fact that women have perhaps a wider vocabulary to describe the colors they're seeing due to cultural exposure. But I was wondering, physically, actually, do we all see color in the same way? And then you were talking about different numbers of cones in the eye. Tell us more about that.
There are, honestly, that it's a really interesting one, because some people are colorblind as well. So you're gonna, you know, some people will say, well, I can't see that color, Jules, I only see that color. So I think, you know, the thing is, we are all individuals and we are all made up in such a clever genetic way. And, you know, generally men do have a different number of cones, so they are seeing color potentially differently. But again, you can have women who are colorblind. You get this, like this woman that has all these different visuals. So I think the answer is also, I think that, and I know I certainly have this, you know, with my husband, I would say that's green and he'll go, it's not, it's blue. And I go, no, it's green. And he'll say, no, it really isn't. Blue's his favorite color. So everything, you know, it's kind of like blue. But he will be seeing more of a blue base than I am seeing green. And I will call it green, or I will call it grass green. And he will say, no, that's a tea leaf green. You know, it's just, I think color, the thing about color is how subjective it is. And I think that's part of its beauty, is that we are all individual and we all do see color in different ways. And how boring it would be if it was just completely, you know, straight, because I think that's how we can all express ourselves individually, is by the way that we see it, and having our favorites, and seeing colors in a way that putting them together also, we see them differently as well. So yeah, some people love certain combinations because they see them as being clashing or harmonious or complementary, and they do actually have, on the color wheel, they have that chemistry. But if you add a bit more yellow into something, or a bit more blue into something, that makes it cooler. You add a bit more yellow, it makes it warmer. And then how are we seeing that? And how are we describing that? You know, I think it's fascinating.
Well, it's really good to understand that we perceive color differently, actually from physically perceive it differently, because we do have these discussions. I'm sure that you and your husband are not the only.
No, I'm sure it goes on all over the world.
A familiar discussion in my house too, as to what color actually is. And now it makes sense. We are literally seeing that color differently. Yeah. So does that mean then that our relationship to the way that color affects us may differ? Because if we talk about blue as being cool, would it be that for some people that feels drab or oppressive, whilst for others it feels relaxing, for instance?
Well, blue, yeah, that's an interesting one, because blue in its narrative is on the cooler spectrum, but the more yellow you put behind blue, so the more turquoisey it goes, the warmer it gets. But blue is generally much better on cooler skin tones, and blue is naturally known as a cooler color. So it's very good to help us if we're feeling anxious or stressed. Blue helps to calm the nervous system down. But it's our relationship with color. So again, it's our upbringing, it's our culture. Do we love those? But I'm not a mad blue person, but I have a warm skin tone, and I'm not on that so much that palette. I would always veer for the oranges, and I would go for green more than I would blue. But there's that certain turquoise that I just absolutely can't get enough of. But would, show me a cornflower or a pale pastel blue, it's just no thank you. It's just, I know for me that when I put it on, I feel drab. It doesn't raise my energy. It makes my skin look all washed out. It really does not do it for me. Whereas for someone else, they might go, oh, I love that soft, cool, pastel-y, and again, that's a personality thing. So when I work with color, it's very much more that the brighter, the warmer colors and the richer tones, the autumn tones. The autumns and springs are the more, what I would term, the more outgoing personalities. And so they are going to naturally gravitate towards those warmer, hotter colors. And for the more introverts, they're going to go towards the cooler colors. So, and that again is something to do with their skin tone, the underlying skin tone, but it's also a personality thing. So if you think about someone walking into a room in a bright orange trouser suit, everyone's going to go, wow, look at you in that bright orange trouser suit. Now that's okay if you're really feeling, yeah, I'm in that orange trouser suit mood when people are going to come up to me and I'm going to get noticed because, I don't know, I'm working that room and I'm feeling really confident, or I'm making a speech, or I'm meeting people and I want people to remember me. But if you put someone who perhaps wasn't feeling it that day, or was more introverted in that orange suit, they would feel really, really uncomfortable with people going up. They would feel much more comfortable in perhaps a very pale blue suit, because then that makes them feel in harmony with their personality. So they're going to walk in and people might come up and say, wow, that's just gorgeous, you look great, but it's not going to be that instant hit of color. So it's a personality thing. And I work with this all the time. You know, it's not about getting people into their true colors, is not about changing people necessarily. It's about helping people be the best of who they can possibly be. And that's, to me, what color is really about. So you are helping someone feel really good about themselves. You're helping someone feel confident about how they're looking and how they're feeling inside. Not about shouting if they don't feel like that, and not about being invisible if they don't feel about that either. So it is, you know, you have to work with every individual and make sure that that person really steps into their own power, depending on what their color is. And within each palette, there are loads of different shades of each color. And within those different shades, each person will resonate more with a shade than somebody else. And that's the individuality of who we are.
Well, it's lovely to be talking about color, because I've always felt that it has a tremendous potential for healing and for lifting spirit. So the book that we are talking about today is A Colorful Dose of Optimism. And Jules, thank you so much for telling us or sharing your wonderful knowledge of color with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and hoping that everybody finds their colourful, happy place in their home and in their wardrobes. And just even discovering one new colour, you know, is a joy for me. So thank you very much for having me.
And if people wanted to find you, how could they do that?
I'm on Instagram at Jules Standish Colour, and I have a website, colourconsultancy.co.uk. And I would also like to just point out that if you buy the book, the first few pages in, there is a little box with your colour prescription images. And the thing about the book is that I wrote the book as a guide, so people could go through it and find their happy colours and find their seasonal colours and their personalities. And then there is a specific website link in the book that you can go into and see all the different colours, some of the different colours in your particular palette and your season. And then there is an option to actually download the colour app that belongs to your season, which has over 100 different shades of your colours, which will go onto your phone for a one-off US fee. I think it's $25. It's really not much, and you'll have it on your phone forever, which means wherever you go shopping in the world, anytime, you can just scroll up your own personal colour fan. So it's something quite unique, and it's digital, and it belongs to the book. So that's really exciting for any of you out there, wherever you are in the world, that you can tap into that.
What fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I shall be putting a link to both your website and the book in the description box. Jules, thank you so much once again.
Oh, thank you, Anna. Lovely to see you.
And thank you all for watching. Next time, we're going to be talking about soul purpose and life's missions. And until then, goodbye.